DC with that open world trip.
Control points looking like a loot buffet, all you can eat. Mayor of Target practice 4 terms running. Bounties for breakfast, convoys for lunch, manhunts for
I sing lullabies to the Riker kids. Control point farming got me stacking bread. Favorite pastime, looting dead man's pockets. Dad to a grenade, but the gear still profit. Open world hustling, solo or team. Best loot in the game when you play it mean. Bounties popping like daily vitamins. Convoy chasing, that's my adrenaline. A clips build loaded, fire starter lit. Entire blocks burning, watch the map glow red. Cleaners crying.
Did I just respawn again? What's going on, Dags? If you're new to the channel, welcome to Daddy Again Gaming. I'm your host Nox, where my favorite thing to do is respawn, and it's not because I'm good. For today's video, I'm going to talk about how I am personally farming those stretch gold caches and what I think the best way to farm the seasonal XP. In this video, I'm going to include the routes that I take, the builds that I use, and a pros and cons section. And I did live stream day 1 and day 2, where on day 1 I did nothing but challenging for the most part, and on day 2 I did nothing but heroic content for the most part. That way I could get a fair comparison this season on what the best way to farm the stretch gold caches and seasonal XP. Spoiler alert for those who don't want to watch the whole video, I have found that farming challenging if you are playing solo for all activities is king, and if you are playing in a group, I recommend you do the open world section where you're going to do the public executions and then run the bounties back to back, and I'll show you later on how I do that. A quick disclaimer before we get into the video, all pros and cons are based on the average and not specifically tailored to any individual skill set and playstyle. This guide is geared to those who want to strictly play on challenging difficulty, and your goal is strictly to farm seasonal XP, not to get loot and not to get the shade levels. And like I said before, this is all based on my own personal experience just from playing the game and the way that I like to farm. And if you already know me, I'm the king of bounty farming. But first, before we get into the juicy details, let's get the easy ways out of the way that you can get seasonal XP. Just keep in mind this might not matter for yourself, but this is going to be more geared towards new players or people who have not done these specific things I'm going to talk about next. And after that, I'm going to talk about priority objectives. Alrighty, Dax, I won't take up too much of your time with this section. I'm just going to talk to you about how you could get a bunch of seasonal XP if you didn't do certain things. First one being, go over to your manhunt, and you're going to have 12 weekly scout missions. And when you complete all 3 objectives for any of the scout missions, you are going to get 2,400 seasonal XP. That is 2 tiers. For the next one, we're going to go over the journey mission. So open this up, tab over to journey. For each of these missions, when you complete it and claim it, you are going to get 2640 XP. And then for each individual line item, you're going to get 300 seasonal XP. And for this next one, you can do it on each one of your agents. So if you have 4 agents, you could do it on all 4 of them. Go over your projects. And this is only going to apply to the weekly projects. You could just scroll down to the rewards and you can see you're going to get 1,200 seasonal XP when you complete this. You got the summit. You'll get the requisitioning mission. You got the weekly legendary. You got the scent. You got the PvP weekly. And once again, you could do this each week on all 4 of your agents. Alright, next, let's talk about the priority objectives. You could open up your menu, go over here, tab over priority objectives, and the priority objectives and the way that they work and the mechanics is going to be unique to each 4 of your agents. Meaning the 3 rerolls you get each day is going to be unique to each agent, and that 1 hour cooldown for a board and a priority objective is going to be unique to each of your 4 agents. So each of the priority objectives is going to have their own value of the seasonal XP that you get from doing it, and the longer that the activity takes, the more of the seasonal XP you're going to get. Right here, the lower the number, the quicker the stronghold is, meaning you have a great chance of it being either the District Union Arena. So my guess in this stronghold is going to be the District Union Arena. So let's see if I'm right. Boom, District Union Arena. And the values that you're going to see is going to be dependent on what your difficulty of your world tier is. Right now mine's on heroic, so let's put it onto challenging, the way that I would recommend farming. Take off the directives because they're useless when it comes to seasonal XP. Alright, now that our world tier is set to challenging, you can see that the seasonal XP we get for running the District Union Arena on challenging is going to be 606. And that seasonal XP is going to be on top of the seasonal XP you're going to get from just actually running the mission. So you're going to get the 541 running it unchallenging. Remember, directives don't matter. And then plus we're going to get the 606. Now let's abandon this. And when you abandon it, it's going to refresh all 3 of them. And here's an open world. It's giving us 134 seasonal XP. So more than likely, this is going to be something like doing 2 propaganda broadcasts, 2 public executions. So let's see what it is. All right, there it is. 2 public executions. Not bad, right? And because I already aborted, I'm not going to be able to abort this one. So let me hop up to a different character. All right, Dags, I am on a new character. And as you can see, my reroll is back. So now let's take a look at the missions and the strongholds. As you can see, this stronghold, 627 seasonal XP, but it is capital building. It is another quick one. Let's abort it. Now let's take a look at the missions. And when it comes to the missions, what you want to do, the same thing with the strongholds, look for the ones that give you a little bit less on the lower end of the seasonal XP. And those are going to be your missions like the Viewpoint Museum, the Lincoln Memorial, American History Museum, the really quick ones. The ones that are going to be like, around 500, 600 are going to be the ones like the Pentagon missions, the White Oak missions. And that's about it for the priority objectives. So just try to line it up with what you like to do. Alrighty, Dags, now with that out of the way, let's talk about the pros and cons of each farm and some techniques that you can use to get the most out of your farming session. I'm going to compare the fastest stronghold, the District Union Arena, while speed running 10 minutes versus Lincoln Memorial missions on 5-minute speed run versus doing public executions and gathering all those juicy bounties and then running those bounties in the specific regions back to back really fast. And all my numbers are going to be based with the bonus 10% XP that you get from having your modifiers turned on and the additional 10% seasonal XP for having the premium season pass. Alright, that's for the first list of pros and cons. Let's talk about the strongholds and missions. Let's take a look at this chart real quick. Shout out to Dispatch for putting together this chart. These numbers are based on heroic content with an extra 20% XP boost. And all the activities marked in red are the ones that I'm going to actively try to avoid, while the ones that aren't highlighted are the ones I'm going to try to do, kind of like the District Union Arena and the shorter missions like the Lincoln Memorial. Then for the pros for doing strongholds and mission is that the priority objectives make it worthwhile. Another pro that when you're playing solo and you matchmake, you might join in the middle of the missions or stronghold or at the end, which will be really nice. Another pro is that it's not as fast paced required as running like the open world activities where you got to constantly look around the map, jump around and stuff like that. And another pro is that you can pair up missions with weekly projects plus priority objectives to knock out 3 birds with 1 stone for seasonal XP. Now for the cons, it is only worth doing the District Union Arena stronghold and quick missions like the Lincoln Memorial. And it's very unlikely you will get all your priority objectives to always be the desired missions, and the efficiency is going to really be heavily based on RNG. Another con is going to actually depend if you can actually run through those missions fast. If it's going to take you 20 minutes to do a District Union Arena stronghold, you might want to lower the difficulty or just avoid running it then. And another con is if you are playing in a group, doing the priority objectives with the missions is only going to benefit the session owner, meaning that you and your teammates are all going to get the mission seasonal XP, but the priority objective XP is only going to go to whoever is the session owner. Now let's talk about the pros and cons on the way that I like to farm, which is going to be the open world public executions followed by doing bounties back to back. A really good pro is that you can get solid seasonal XP without priority objectives. It is super quick and easy to do public executions and bounties with a status effect build, a Turmoil one-shot 2-cheek build, or a Pestilent Turmoil build. Pretty much when you're playing on challenging, the key to going through the content fast is going to be any type of build that has area of attack, like the status effects, Plague of the Outcast kind of does this thing bounce around, and then the Turmoil Kneepads bounces around the damage for you. Another pro, public executions repopulate really quickly, allowing you to stack up bounties for whatever region you are in pretty quick. And you can also get bounties from public executions, projects, rescue operations, and the snitch. And doing bounties gives you really good rewards with the additional of named enemies having a higher drop rate for exotics. So if you're looking for the Chameleon AR, you're probably going to get one, that's for sure. And another pro is that you can do this solo, and you can also do this in a group, because the bulk of the seasonal XP will come from the activities. So everybody in your group is going to get the seasonal XP from the public executions and the seasonal XP from the bounties. And another cool thing is if you are playing in a group, when you do a public executions, the bounty will drop for every single person in your party. So if you are in a 4-man group, doing one public execution will net you 4 bounties, and you could run all 4 of those bounties individually. So all you have to really do is do like, 5 to 10 public executions in a full group, and that's going to net you anywhere from 20 bounties to 40 bounties. That's a lot of bounties you guys can do as a team. Now let's talk about the cons of doing public executions and bounties. It's going to be very build specific if you want to speed run doing this, so you're going to want to have a status effect build or turmoil kneepads. And that is another con because a lot of the builds that you want to run for challenging are going to be reliant on having the turmoil kneepads. Another con that it is going to be RNG based because the public executions aren't always going to spawn, and sometimes you might get a different activity that spawns in place of the public execution. Another con is that you're going to need to ignore loot for the most efficient farming, as you're going to want to keep the public executions under a minute and doing the bounties under a minute. But don't worry, if you're doing the bounties in the same spot, the loot's going to stay underground for like 30 plus minutes or something like that. Another big con for the most efficient way to farm bounties the way I do, you're going to have your world set up a specific way, and I'll kind of explain that later on. But that won't be at the end of the world if you don't have your world set up like mine, because you can still do the bounties in downtown West, and you could also do the bounties at the West End even if you don't have your world set up like mine in a really fast spot. Alright, Dags, now that we got the pros and cons out the way, let's get nerdy and talk about the numbers. I'm going to go through this kind of quick, so if you want to see the chart, just pause it and take a screenshot. For this first chart, we're going to talk about the seasonal XP with the 20%. I compared the most common things that you want to do: the control points, public executions, bounties, Lincoln Memorial, District Union Arena, and you're going to see the seasonal XP without the priority objectives that you will get on hard, challenging, and heroic. And you can see that the jump from challenging difficulty to heroic difficulty is literally nothing. It's very small. Now take a quick look at this chart that's going to showcase the armor and the HP pools of enemies depending on what difficulty you are playing with, and if you're playing solo or in a group. And you can see that the armor that the enemies have moving from challenging to heroic is very significant. And if you're playing on heroic, you're not going to be able to run a status effect build efficiently. That's why I'm playing on challenging, because I can literally just run around the map and one-shot full waves with a status effect. If you don't believe me, watch these clips real quick. Very, very true. Let me see if I can dome them all from back here. Damn.
That's crazy. That's some immaculate work right there.
Like, y'all want to do something? You're welcome.
See, I knew you was special when I seen you in DZ. I knew. I know.
Let me see if I can hit them with the fireball from across the world. Think I got him. Yo, from across the whole block. No fucks given. Look how fast I got my public X, bruh. I don't even watch. I just collect. Oh no. Alright. One survived. Look how fast that was, bruh. Now moving on, let's actually compare doing the Lincoln Memorial, District Union Arena, and then running 5 public executions with 5 bounties. And like I said before, this is going to be all RNG on your priority objectives. And keep in mind, when you are doing missions, you're not going to be able to get those missions every single time with the priority objectives. But when you do line up the priority objectives and get Lincoln Memorial, if you could run it on 5 minutes, you're going to get 829 seasonal XP. District Union Arena, if you go run it in 10 minutes, you're going to get 1,147 seasonal XP, but that won't always be the case because you're not going to get those missions every single time, and you might waste a lot of time trying to re-roll swap characters to reroll on a different character to get those. Versus if you're just going to do the open world farming solo or in a group, you could do 5 public executions in 5 minutes, and that's going to net you 305 seasonal XP. And those 5 minutes is going to include fast traveling around the map. I'm going to show you the routes that I take later on to minimize the time you waste running around the map. That way you could get into that 1 minute mark for doing public executions, including travel time. Now, when you come to the bounties, you could do bounties in under a minute. So 5 bounties in under 5 minutes is going to net you 1,220 seasonal XP. And when you combine that in a 10-minute run, you can get 1,525 seasonal XP. And yes, if you do Lincoln Memorial twice back to back with a priority objective, you will net more experience, but that's very rare and it's going to be totally RNG. So if you want that to happen, put your hands together and pray to sweet baby RNGesus. So Dags, in conclusion, it's pretty close in the pros and cons for each type of farm, and it will be totally up to you to pick a farm style. All I'm doing is showing you the way that I am farming and what I think is the best way to farm. And I suggest that you experiment for yourself and do what you enjoy to do as well, as that will always net you the most amount of experience. Alrighty Dags, now that the nerdy stuff is out the way, next let's go over my farming route and strategy. Then I'll show you a couple builds that I use for playing on challenging difficulty. Alright Dags, I'm going to talk to you about how I have my world set up and where I like to farm and what strategies I employ when I want to do this really fast and get as much of the seasonal XP as fast as possible. First things first, I started as agent at level 1. I did not boost to 30 or 40. I played from level 1 to level 40 the good old-fashioned way. And if you noticed, I did not do any of my side missions anywhere on my map. And because I didn't do the side missions, it's going to be very, very easy for me to do bounties. And that's because the bounties like to go to side missions. And then because I didn't do this side mission, this one, or this one, the bounties in these 2 regions don't really have anywhere to go to. So they will end up going to a random spot. And if you know the spot, you know the spot. It's going to be this location right here in downtown West. So just take a look at this. I'm going to start a bounty right here. And it's going to go to the same exact spot every single time right there. So cancel that. Start another bounty. And again, the same spot, cancel that. And what's really neat about my world, watch what happens when I start a bounty in the West End. And remember, I didn't do any of the side missions. Look where the bounty went. Let's do it again. I didn't do this side mission. I didn't do that side mission, or that side missions. So there's literally no spot for the bounties to go to. So let's start another bounty. Boom, I went to downtown West. There's a similar theme on this whole map with the bounties, but I'm only going to talk about these 2 spots right here for the sake of the video. On a side note, when I was making this video, I did reset my control points to change in the difficulty, so just keep that in mind when I explain this upcoming steps. These are the control points you're going to want to take over. It's going to be this one right here, this one right here. And the reason why you want to take over this control point and this control point is because you're going to use them as fast travel location points. That way, whenever there's a public execution right here, you could fast travel to this control point right here, just run over. This public execution is easy to get to. You'll spawn here and just literally turn around and run down the street, and there's going to be a garage door you can run down. This is another spot for the public execution. Spawn into submissions, run down here and cut down the street. For this public execution, you could go to this classified assignment, climb up the ladder and knock it out. For this public execution, you could go to the settlement and just run down. And the reason why you want to take over this control point is you could fast travel here. And this spot right here likes to be public execution. So fast travel to this control point and knock them out. For this public execution, is fast travel to this classified assignment right here, run down. For this public execution, you can fast travel to the main gate entrance. Do not fast travel to the checkpoint. Go to the main gate and you're just going to spawn outside of the dark zone. If you go to the checkpoint, you're going to spawn inside of the dark zone. And then for this one, this spot right here likes to be a public execution as well. So just go to this classified assignment and run over here. And this is pretty much what I do. I just kind of go around, knock out my public executions whenever they spawn, knock them out, knock them out, knock them out. And when I have enough and I want to go ahead and farm them, I could do them solo, or I could invite friends to make it faster. And if you want to really ramp up how many bounties you get, you could play in a 4-man group, because each time you guys do a public executions, all 4 of you are going to be able to pick up the same bounty, and each one of you can do the same bounty 4 times. So You can do this public execution and this public execution in a 4-man group, then run over here and do a total of 8 bounties back to back. Doing the bounties on heroic, it gives you that 300, and doing the bounties on challengings give you that 244 seasonal XP. And when I'm doing the open world activities, I'm going to always try to do my priority objectives and line it up with the open world. And a couple other spots I like to farm is right here in the White House. I'll go to the DCD headquarters and I'll run and knock out these 3 public executions right here. Then I'll check this spot right here in Southwest. I'll kind of go check out this area right here, fast travel to the mission, turn it around, knock this out. Then you could run over here, or you could kind of go to the mission right here or the safe house and run over. I'll fast travel to the DZ main entrance. Then I'll do a 90-degree turn to the right and run straight to the entrance right here, knock this out. And then for the most part, I don't really mess with the public executions with the hyenas. They're just really annoying. But if you don't mind playing the hyenas, you could always check right here at the stronghold, and you can knock out these 2 right here. They're really close to each other. And that's pretty much it, Dax. This is how I like to farm. I do the public executions in the West End, downtown West, and then I just run all the bounties back to back in this spot right here. Alright, Dax, I'm not going to get into details about the builds, but this is the loadout that I am running when I'm doing the open world activities like the public executions. This is pretty much a variant of my 4-dot build. I just tailored it to do an open world challenging farming. This loadout right here is going to do more than enough damage to clear whole waves on challenging difficulty. For this loadout, this is my 1-shot 2-cheek loadout. And if you want to see a full breakdown of my previous build and this build, I'm going to post the link, that way you can see it. But here's a quick rundown of it. We got Determined, we got Rifleman, Tinkerer, Vigilance, we got Headhunter, Eagle's Grasp, here's the Holster, and here's the Turmoil Kneepads with the Bewilder talent. I got Riot Foam, Reviver Hive, and here's the loadout I run if I'm farming in a group and doing the bounties specifically in the downtown West location. The only thing that's unique about this build is that I have Proxy Backpack, and with the perfect temper proof is going to shock every 8 seconds. I'm going to throw my turret right in front of the door that the enemies come out at the downtown West bounty. And then I have the fire starter that I'm just going to shoot out every so often to deal massive damage to the enemies while my teammates clean up, mop up the floor. If you got any questions about the builds, just drop a comment below and I'll try to answer you as soon as I can. Alright, Dags, I hope you guys liked my guide to farming stretch gold caches. And if you have any cool tips or tricks about farming for these stretch gold caches, drop a comment below for the community to see. And of course, if you made it this far, make sure to like the video. And if you're not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe to help out the channel. Now let's all put our hands together and pray to sweet baby RNGesus. Sweet baby RNGesus, please bless us with the Lexington Turmoil Kneepads, the Ravenous, the Regulars, the Eagle Bearer, whatever they want. One time.